There is no better way to open today's story than with a quote. Yes, I'm Eve's son. That's not something I hide from. But my appointment isn't only about family ties. It's about what Ubisoft needs at this moment. Hell of a statement. What Ubisoft needs and what Charlie Gilmo is defending, very poorly, is nepotism. Ubisoft needs nepotism because keep it in the family. We've got the new $1.8 billion subsidiary. It's currently unnamed. We're going to call it Tubisoft. It's finally starting to be fleshed out. And as it
Hey, Ever, how's it going, bro?
is fleshed out, we see that Ubisoft has made sure there are Gilmo family members in control. Because look, having spent all that time and money making sure that Tencent backed the family's position, they are not going to risk someone else running the show as they now start changing how the whole company works. And they start trying to spin a big public narrative about how, no, this time it's different, we're different, the change is going to be real. Let me know after you finish the video how much you believe that will be the case. So it's been a fairly busy few weeks over at Ubisoft. The company just held their annual general meeting in Paris. And here's the interesting bit.
Paris.
It was actually open to the public. And that meant they had to balance investor questions with those of public stockholders. Obviously, there's room for drama there, and we did learn a few things. As an example, on Stop Killing Games, Ubisoft said that they will comply with the law. And they claim that
regarding the petition, we operate in a market. Whenever we release a game, we provide a lot of support for that game and services to make sure that game is accessible and remains playable 24/7. Players and buyers are forewarned that eventually the game may be disconnected. We also announced that The Crew 2 would be available offline in the future so that players could continue to play it. Support for old games cannot last forever. Oh.
They help people upgrade whenever service ends. They also said they're still not worried about the culture war stuff around Assassin's Creed Shadows. They blamed brand fatigue for Outlaws failing and also for the quality targets being missed. They actually...
Oh, let me go back to that.
They help people upgrade whenever service ends. They also said they're still not...
Shareholder, Ubisoft has been accused and criticized for this wokest trend. Are you going to backpedal on that leftist political agenda? When you get to play the game, you understand that. The characters actually blend in with the game. This is an actual character. This is someone who really existed, and showcasing that character has been extremely successful, and that is why we dedicate to tell that story. We wanted to tell a different story. Yes, Gilmont?
Worried about the culture war stuff around Assassin's Creed Shadows. They blamed brand fatigue for Outlaws failing and...
Oh, really? Star Wars Outlaws, what have you learned from the failure in terms of sales? And they thought it was brand fatigue? Disney has been doing terrible with Star Wars the last, like 3 movies, haven't they?
Also, for the quality targets being missed, they actually teased the new Prince of Persia.
As you know, we got some iconic brand names in our catalog that we can either activate or reactivate with little investment. This goes to the remake Prince of Persia, The Sands of Time, which is going to be released very soon, or even Splinter Cell later on in the game. Oh,
Persia remake?
I mean, if they do them right, if they remake... I mean, both of those games are really good. Splinter Cell was like a really cool game coming up. Like, I remember buying a Xbox 360 that came with, like, the Splinter Cell, like Black Cell or something like that. Splinter Cell, Black Cell, or something like that. That was probably one of the last ones I played, but it was a pretty fun game.
I will not hold my breath on that. It's been, years and years and years. So apparently they say it's coming through. And they also tacitly confirmed reports of a new first-person Ghost Recon game. That's...
Ooh. Ghost Recon title is aimed to be released in 2025 to 2026, which will see the Ghost Recon franchise head back into a first-person perspective. That'd be kind of cool. I would definitely play that, or at least look into it if it's first-person.
Actually exciting. Maybe. Asterisks. I don't trust them. But there was one good thing I didn't expect. They actually confirmed that they're interested in smaller AA games, right? That's the type of game that broadly we've kind of lost in the market. And
I feel like a lot of indie games that have been coming out that have AA or AAA success, I mean, they need to make more smaller games. The smaller games are where it's at. The smaller, cheaper games. These games going for $70, $80. Most of them aren't even worth it. For one thing, most of them release broken. Most of them release without all the functions that they need, or they are like, oh, here we need to get this out, and then hopefully people will just keep spending money in all the stores, to make it so they can even finish the game after it's already out. Like, it doesn't make any sense. And so I feel like Double A is where we're probably headed soon. I mean, Black or Battlefield 6 might be something that changes the game quite a bit. I feel like if that could do really really good, there might be a big shift in the game. But I do think Double A and indie games are what's probably starting to become way more popular.
It's where so much creativity used to be, because those were games not saddled by, like, I don't know, $200 million budgets. And after all that came the pseudo-apology. Eve, who is the CEO, addressed those impacted by 3 executives who recently were actually convicted.
About most recent events, how is it that the head of the group or the head of HR saw nothing? I mean, we operate in these buildings and everything is known. Everyone knows what's going on. So how is it they did nothing? They didn't stop it because it doesn't help the group with its levels of creativity. So how is it that nothing was seen and nothing was done?
In France, yes, convicted of enabling a culture of sexual
3 of them, too, I think he said. That's crazy.
Harassment at the company.
The company was not found liable for any of the claims that were taken against the company for misconduct. So yes, we are extremely sorry for what occurred, and we put in place a second we heard blank, I guess. We put in place a second we heard of what was happening. Additional systems and additional mechanisms to ensure that information could be reported more effectively for any sort of blank for such cases, so probably harassment, I would assume. And we are keeping a very close eye on this to make sure that it will not happen again. That's crazy, especially if they were convicted. I mean, how does that go under the radar?
So claimed the new procedures would stop that sort of thing from happening again. But here's the thing. I've just rocketed through all of that stuff because honestly, the real news was not at the annual general meeting with public stockholders and such. No, the biggest changes actually came in the days before, because we actually now know who runs the Tencent-backed subsidiary. This is the one that exists to control Assassin's Creed, Far Cry, and Rainbow Six. It's quite literally Ubisoft splitting, and as it turns out, this is just stage 1 of the plan. Ubisoft went to Variety for these announcements because, it's Variety. It's a bastion of nice, comforting corporate interviews with, lots of little softballs. I mean, hell, even the nepotism question was softballed.
How would you address concerns of nepotism regarding Charlie's appointment?
This stuff is all calculated. I mean, even thinking of the timing here, Netflix greenlit the Assassin's Creed series a few days before this interview, and it's an interview that's, very much about the 2 people who are now running that series, that's designed completely around investor storytelling and confidence. So this Variety thing,
hopefully they'll be good.
One designed to announce new leadership.
As long as it's better than when they did the Halo TV show, I think we'll be okay.
Comfortably. No hard questions. So, what were they announcing? Well, they were announcing the 2 co-CEOs of Ubisoft.
Talk plans for Assassin's Creed, Rainbow Six, and Far Cry.
We're going to call it Ubisoft because it's the second Ubisoft company, and it actually still doesn't have a proper name. First up, we've got Charlie Guillemot, and if Guillemot sounds familiar to you, it should. Yves Guillemot is the founder and CEO of Ubisoft overall, so that's them keeping it in the family. Now, he's returned to the company after just under 4 years away, and by the way, those 4 years didn't.
He came back to Ubisoft earlier this year to assess the potential for a buyout, sell, or other strategic move, which resulted in the creation of the new subsidiary.
Involve a crypto venture, because of course they did. The second guy then is Christophe Duren. Here's the fun thing. He's the cousin of the in the family. Now, he's returned to the company after just under 4 years away. And by the way, those 4 years did involve a crypto venture, because of course they did. The second guy then is Christophe Duren.
Most recently served as Ubisoft's managing director for North America.
Here's the fun thing. He's the cousin of the overall CEO, Yves Guillemot. So they're very much, again, keeping it in the family. So essentially, That means he's Charlie's cousin once removed. Apparently, then,
Oh
there
my
were no
gosh.
better applicants
So if they do that, I mean, with the big deal with Tencent and they're them purchasing whatever portion it was, I wasn't sure what portion or how much of the company they're buying. Um, but with that, don't they get to choose who also gets hired? Maybe in a way, like I feel like it can't just be only who the CEO wants to go, right?
for the job. The only people they could find were in the family. What if I told you there's almost certainly a pretty major reason why they did that? I'll get to that in a second.
Yeah, I want to know.
Now, in the interview,
what
they
you
explain
think.
their roles. Essentially, that Charlie will be handling the what, and Darren will be managing the how. And what does that mean? Well, it basically means that Charlie will decide what Assassin's Creed, Far Cry, or Rainbow Six are actually offering to players, right?
Ooh.
Different types of game experience, all that stuff. Darren
I played a lot of Rainbow Six Siege when that first came out. We had a lot of fun playing that.
is then going to be making sure that it happens, that the tech exists, that the teams are supported, that the games actually get shipped. That kind of production stuff. And as for why he got the role, well, other than the obvious familial reason, his time away apparently helped. He managed
Really?
Unagi, a mobile game and Web3 company, because of course there's crypto involved. And he had came from mobile experience, actually
What is up
co-leading
with-
one of Ubisoft's
What is up with all these crypto scams nowadays? Maybe we need to look into some videos about it.
mobile teams from 2014 to 2021. Then, of course, he left to go his own way and do the crypto stuff. Now, his departure wasn't exactly a calm one. It came after Elite Squad used BLM imagery for terrorists in 2020, or at the very least, you know, the common kind of like fist up solidarity imagery, which is also used by BLM. So obviously, Ubisoft, big corporate entity, very much did not want to have drama. They want money, not drama. And he left shortly after that.
Oh
now, what's
my
fun
gosh.
is that Yves Guillemot says that it's his
It was probably accurately portrayed.
entrepreneurial perspective that's going to be bringing Ubisoft a real strength. You know, an outsider who can shake the company up, by which he means an outsider who is in the family who actually used to work at Ubisoft for quite a long time. Though, being real with you, I would wager, I would put money on it actually being about trust. And this is where you need to know the context of this story.
Use Guillemot. Christoph and Charlie bring distinct complementary strengths that will be instrumental in making this new step in the history of Ubisoft a success. Both share their extensive knowledge of the Ubisoft ecosystem, their passion for the company and its brands, and the commitment to ensuring the continuity of the Ubisoft ethos.
See, years and years and years ago, Vivendi
If it's been in the family and it keeps getting run like it is now, do you think they're gonna have more splits in the future? I mean, do you think Ubisoft is really gonna be around that long after that? Because if they make a good Rainbow Six Siege game, if they make a good, you know, whatever the other two that they have, Far Cry. I mean, Far Cry's been the same game since Far Cry 3, pretty much, just different antagonists. You know, you're on a random island, you're capturing random locations, and then that's it. You just take over the whole island pretty much by yourself. That's all you do in all of them. So they got to do something a little different for the Far Cry franchise. Um, as for Assassin's Creed, I haven't really played an Assassin's Creed game in a really long time. But Siege, if they could make another good Siege game, I mean, I don't know how Siege is doing right now. I assume a lot of people are still playing it. But I remember playing that in the beginning, and I had a lot of fun. So if they made another one, I would probably check that out too.
actually did a hostile takeover of Gameloft. That was a big loss for the Guillemot family. They then tried a hostile takeover of Ubisoft, which actually did fail
Dang.
because of Tencent's help. And recently, they faced activist investors who've been very hostile to to the current leadership. And funnily enough, Tencent have also came in to help them get out of that. So essentially, with that in mind, it's really not a surprise that Ubisoft have decided to close ranks, because basically, family, trust, lineage, right? But then there's the other part of Ubisoft, of it sometimes being a pretty damn shitty place
About most recent events, how is it that the head of the group of the head of HR saw? Oh, this is the same crap.
to
Sorry.
work. You know, see the 3 executives who were convicted earlier. So Insider Gaming did report that his return came with something specific. an acknowledgement. Apparently, he actually took responsibility for the 2020 controversy. So essentially, they're getting him and they're pairing him with Christophe, who would be seen to be a pair of safe hands. And likely the safest hands they could find. I mean, he's
Seems
been
like
at
they're
Ubisoft since
younger
1990.
too, so
he ran Ubisoft Montreal.
They'll be able to work quite a while. More than 35 years. Oh.
Since 2020, that means that he shipped Assassin's Creed Shadows, and while that was happening, he took control of all of North America since October 2023. Well, Ubisoft North America, not actual North America. So basically, if you're finding yourself needing to convince Tencent that there's a firm hand in the tiller, someone who's used to operating semi-autonomously from like big Ubisoft in Paris, he's essentially your man. But here's the thing, these figureheads are only part of the story, because in reality, Ubisoft have been planning a complete overhaul for months. Let me know if you think this is going to work. So, before announcing to Ubisoft, the company created something else. They created the Transformation Committee.
I feel like after Assassin's Creed Shadows came out and they announced that they were merging, I feel like it was only a matter of time after that. I don't think it did very well.
This is a group of people who basically were tasked with fixing Ubisoft. That could mean a sale. It could mean more layoffs.
Dang.
Essentially, any number of options were possible, and they ended up choosing the deal with Tencent. Now, who was on this committee? Well, it was mostly senior Ubisoft executives, various disciplines, right? Legal was there, HR was there, and they had 100 days to lock in the plan. But that deadline has passed. And it also is a group that included someone rather familiar, Charlie Gilmour. And Eve explained the thinking of that in this interview with Variety, where he basically said they didn't want to pull existing leadership from Ubisoft franchises, so they wanted to lock Charlie in early, someone who could basically step into the new role. But here's where it gets really interesting, right? This new way of governance may spread across all of Ubisoft. And that might seem to you profoundly uninteresting. Who the fuck cares about governance in Ubisoft? But the bit where it could actually matter is for a very long time, Ubisoft Paris sort of had this like little taste-making division in it. And that basically would be responsible for greenlighting problems.
Oh, what is this? Ubisoft revamps editorial team to make its game more unique. A key goal of the editorial team's restructuring is to make Ubisoft's software lineup more varied. Source told VGC. One anonymous source told VGC, in the previous system that editorial had, there were often the ideas of just one or two people getting put into every game. That's why you tended to see such similarity, because it's the same taste and opinion being replicated. That explains all of the Far Cry games, and I mean, they did the same thing with just different skins. It was just reskinned every year.
Project.
Or every
as
game.
An example, if you wanted a big Arthurian role-playing game, well, you could have had that, but the tastemakers in Paris cancelled it. So the idea then...
Oh, they canceled it probably because they only wanted to keep making the same thing.
That it could be a little bit less centralized could actually be a good thing, at least from a creative standpoint. That could be good for us, but it could also be bad, and don't worry, I'll get onto that very shortly in this video. We should probably know how it actually works, so here's how. These will be, quote, coherent creative houses, each reflecting different game experiences. Each one will effectively be like Ubisoft, essentially lopped off and running its own stuff. Autonomous leadership,
so just
their own
be
financial...
a bunch of mini Ubisoft studios, it sounds like. All Ubisoft, a bunch of Ubisofts.
Goals, their own targets, and we're going to get full details of all this in September. It's essentially them federalizing. Think about it this way. Groups of developers and groups of brands, each with their own specialties, each with their own targets. As an example, one of these creative houses may be focusing on family games, right? Maybe things like Prince of Persia, like Rayman. Another one might be RPGs and strategy. So as an example, it could handle Heroes of Might and Magic and Anno, which, to be fair, are both brilliant. And in the best case scenario, this could really work. In the best case, it does sound really promising. And so
if they put everyone with their strengths all together, I bet they could make some really good games. Hey, Miasas. I bet they could make some really good games.
Much better than the shitty centralized group in Paris who do seem to have just made continually stupid decisions that just eroded like so much of what Ubisoft was. Basically, you know the way Ubisoft used to be defined by like radio towers being everywhere in games? That was that like core taste-making group basically enforcing that across all of their games. So thus far in the video, it actually does seem like a good thing, right? It seems like these...
Wasn't Assassin's Creed Shadows like that? You were going to towers, capturing towers, just like the Assassin's Creed and the Far Cry games almost merged into one blob. They played the same, but they were different timelines, you know.
These games could flourish. If you're a fan of Anno, as an example, this could be amazing news. But here's the thing. I do not want to be a merchant of false hope, and there absolutely are risks, because this could really go south as well. Alright, so Ubisoft
Meh.
is still majority owned by the overall Ubisoft entity, and Tencent has got 25% of Ubisoft.
Oh,
And the reason
25%. I thought it was 10%, so.
why is that Tencent wants the economic returns, but the control will stay with Ubisoft. Although obviously Tencent has already got an existing relationship with Ubisoft, because funnily enough, the reason why the Guillemos are still running Ubisoft is that Tencent came to save them a few years ago. Now this current deal is amazing because there's protections against hostile takeovers and stuff that's obviously bad for the Guillemos, but that's just for Ubisoft. And remember, Ubisoft is the thing that's got Far Cry, that's got Assassin's Creed, that's actually got the big money brands. What about the other creative houses? Because as much as Anno's cool and the idea of a modern Heroes of Might and Magic that isn't shit is kinda cool, are we really going to see huge amounts of money go into that? And that then worries me. Will Ubisoft seek
Probably
outside
not.
investment for
But if they split off in a bunch of mini studios and they just did a bunch of mini games like these, I feel like that could be successful. Just like if they're making the big games, right? They just have people split up into more slices of the pie, I guess you could say. And then they could make more smaller games. I feel like they'd probably be better off investing more in a AA games and not even make AAA games for a while.
Rayman, for Splinter Cell? And if so, will investors demand more control? Because you could look at this thing with Tencent and say, I mean, you do exert control, but maybe not as much as you could have. But then again, it's for the likes of Assassin's Creed, which is actually proven to bring in loads of money. For more niche games, for smaller games, I really doubt they'll be
Did
getting
it launch
any
well?
deals as good as the one that they've got here.
I
And
mean,
even if protections exist against the likes
it looks pretty good, right? Riding through here.
of hostile investors, well, that's good for the Guillemos, but it's not a guarantee that it's going to be good for us. Not for the smaller games that people deeply love, like Anno. Now, let's assume that Ubisoft leadership isn't stupid. I know, quite an assumption, but let's assume it. They won't expect Anno to match Assassin's Creed revenue. But what does that mean for their riskier projects, for their non-live service games? Will they get subsidized by the bigger teams, by the bigger titles? Now, this is not just idle speculation, because we very recently saw that go very badly. Let's take a look at Electronic Arts. A while ago, they separated their sports division from entertainment. The whole point is they were supposed to stand in their own and, not be commingled in terms of risk. What's actually happened? Well, both.
So they split up. I mean, EA might make a comeback with Battlefield 6.
Are just struggling independently. Entertainment is no longer able to hide behind the EA Sports FC funding. Things like Ultimate Team that somehow just make all the money in the world. So they can't hide behind that. And without that safety net, the entertainment division
like gambling
has
and
absolutely floundered. Is that going to be Ubisoft's future? Because if the only thing you give a shit about is money, then Anno and Heroes of Might and Magic, or the Settlers, are not relevant to you. Assassin's Creed is, right? And while the Guillemot family members do appear to be endless,
I need to play more
leadership
games
does
like
actually matter here. I mean, these creative house leaders are going to be crucial, right? You could say that they're fulcrums. Now, do you remember when Ubisoft had big-name creative directors? That was people like Jade Raymond, Clint Hawking, Michel Ancel. Many of them have since left. So where does the new creativity come from? Especially if these creative leaders, known for making video games, are now also having to run creative houses as businesses. Is that really their best strength? What's the big takeaway then? Well, analysts enter.
I just feel like if they don't have a lot of these big people anymore, where do they go? Are they on other games at other studios, or are they just not doing anything in the gaming world at all anymore? Because that's probably more scary than anything if you're losing a lot of good talent that used to be there. You got to kind of find what companies they're going to. That way you can either buy those games or look into them at least and hope that they're still making good games. Or it's possible that because of these dumb company decisions, and when they have to lay people off and somehow and somehow like your good people get laid off and they don't go anywhere, I mean, you lose a lot of good talent in the gaming space. The Sims is one of the biggest EA games. Oh, I didn't realize Sims was EA. Yeah, that is pretty big. Like Sims 4 has been doing updates forever.
During 2025 predicted that Ubisoft would transform. They basically said that by December the company would not be the same. Do you know what? They were right. That process is underway. We're seeing the creative house's plan essentially stratify the company, turn it into sort of little isolated kingdoms. And there's many ways you could look at that and think, actually that's good, actually that makes sense. Maybe Rayman should not be existing in the same company that's doing like Assassin's Creed. Okay, sure, we can say that. But let's look at these appointments. I mean, Charlie Guillemot, Christophe Duran, they're continuity. They're not new blood. They're core Ubisoft.
Yeah.
You know, one who's been there for a very, very, very long time, both of whom are like literally family. What we essentially
That's what makes me think that Tencent's gonna have to step in a lot more than what they have in the past just to get stuff right. You know, if it's the same family there still, they're probably and they're gonna run it just like Eve's here. I mean, good luck.
see is an Ubisoft that wants to project to the world, hey, we're changing, we're taking bold action, it's going to be great, we're going to get those returns for our shareholders, which we all love and, you know, do hold to be the most important thing in existence. So they're trying to say that. But when you look at these appointments, it's very much not a huge change. But I'll tell you what I actually think, what I really think, having covered this story pretty much with every development since last year. I think that, yeah, sure, they've got Tencent. Maybe Tencent fully backs the Guillemot.
They need to
right?
push it
and
more.
They've maybe dealt with these hostile investors, whatever. There's one through line throughout all of this. It starts with how seemingly badly they took losing Gameloft, right? Losing Gameloft to Vivendi in the early 2000s. They took that badly, and since then, almost all of their moves have been about one thing: that the family remains in control. And today's story is absolutely proof of that.
Damn. I did want to watch this Riot video eventually. Let me share this, and hopefully you guys can check this out. Give him a like, give him a sub if you can. I usually pre-like the videos. I that probably would have been an okay video to pre-watch. That was a lot of info to take in because I don't know a whole lot about Ubisoft, so I apologize about that. But that was a really good video. The Bellular News does really, really well with these videos. I think he puts them together great.